Hello to everyone who's after joining us so far. Appreciate everybody taking the time to come on to today's webinar, which is focused on preparing for your kids and your grandkids' third level education. My own name is David Looney and I work as a financial planner with Alpha Wealth, and I am joined by some of my colleagues on the call today, including Nick Charlambus, who is our Managing Director, Keenan Cunningham, our Marketing Manager, and Cleena O'Donoghue, our Director of Business Development. We do like to make these sessions relatively informal, so if anybody does have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to pop them into the Q&A box and we'll do our best to get to them throughout the webinar or at the end. If there's anyone on the webinar who might not be too familiar with our company or what we do, we basically run a impartial financial planning and advisory company headquartered in Little Island in Cork. We've 8 advisors in Alpha Wealth who've over 60 years of experience between us, and we basically work with individuals and families like yourselves in pretty much all areas of personal finance. Just to summarize some of the areas that we help clients with in terms of managing their money, we look at things like mortgage advice and reducing debt, protection reviews where we focus on things like life cover, income protection, specified illness cover, just making sure people are adequately protected, things like savings and investments advice and providing investment solutions, estate succession and tax planning, child savings plans, which we'll obviously be discussing a bit today, pensions and retirement planning, and tax back investments. So tonight's webinar, should I say, is very focused on preparing for kids and grandkids education costs. And when I'm dealing with clients, I often find that a lot of people in Ireland are unaware of just how much money it might take to put kids or grandkids through third level education. And as a result, a lot of people aren't prepared when that time comes around, and it can really put people into difficulty or throw people off. So it is really all about kind of early planning. So the key takeaways from today's presentation are: how much will education cost and how much should we have set aside for that? How much should we be saving on an ongoing basis to meet our objectives? Where should we be saving? Very important. And finally, just some tax considerations when giving money to kids or grandkids. And as I mentioned, we will open it up to a bit of a Q&A at the end. So there's a lot of studies out there, stats out there around exactly how much it takes to put kids through education, and the figures I have here on my screen are provided by Zorg, which are one of the largest insurance companies in Ireland. If we look firstly at primary school, if you focus on things like after school activities, books, transport, trips, school supplies, the estimated average annual cost is in the region of about €1,000 per child. So after over the 8 years of primary school, you're talking about a lifetime cost of about €8,000. Moving up then to secondary school, similar enough, activities and costs, but the cost going up to roughly on average €1,891 per child per year. So that's a lifetime cost over the 6 years of about 11,346. And then moving on, of course, to the big one, third level education, generally, 4 to 5 years of third level education if somebody's doing a master's. And the cost can really vary here depending on whether your kids or grandkids are going to be staying at home when they're in third level education, or whether they're going to be rented or student accommodation. So the costs can range from as much as €4,894 per year for kids who are living at home, right up to €9,000 per year for those who might be in rented accommodation when they're in third level education. So overall, over that 4 to 5 year period, you could be looking at costs of about 19,500 right up to €36,000 per child. And unfortunately, statistics also show that about 52% of Irish parents are relying on debt to finance those third level education costs. If people don't have savings set aside and they are left with no other choice but to take out a loan, you're talking about loan repayments in the region of about €380 to €700 per month over the 5 year term to meet those expenses. So as I said, it can really put people into financial difficulty down the line, and it is really about early planning. It's so crucial to know what you're looking at and start saving early on. When I'm speaking to clients here in the office, the first step is all about doing a education projection, because the cost to put your kids through education will depend on many different factors. Firstly, it'll depend on how many dependents you have. It'll depend obviously on what age your dependents and how long you have to go until you have to meet those education costs. And as I already mentioned, the cost can really vary depending on whether they're expected to stay at home or whether they have to rent. Obviously, if you're somebody who's living in maybe Cork City Centre, Dublin City Centre, you could maybe plan on the basis that they might stay at home. But for those that are living on more rural areas, they might be better off planning on the basis that they might be needing to stay in rented accommodation during third level education. This is a projection that I done with two clients I was working with last week. So they had two children, one was age 2 and one was age 4, and working on the assumption that they were staying at home when they're in third level education. They would need to have set aside about €36,000 for their first dependent and about €35,000 for their second dependent. So, roughly about €72,000 there to put their two kids through third level education. Now, while some of you might balk at that figure and say it's completely unrealistic, one thing we do have to appreciate is that inflation means that education costs and living costs and rent will rise naturally over time. So while that might seem like a very large sum of money now, it might be a very, very realistic sum of money in 15 to 17 years time. At that point in Ireland, the price of a pint could probably be 15, €20 the way things are going. Now, this projection also says that those clients can achieve that goal by saving about €303 per month. Now, the child benefit per child in Ireland is about €140 per child. So in total, that's €280 for the two kids. So they're nearly coming up to that figure. Now, if we plan on the basis that those kids are going to be renting while they're in third level education, unfortunately, the costs nearly double, as you can see here. So again, if you are in that cohort, it is so important to plan early on. In that instance, parents would need to save about €602 per month. Now, obviously, some people might say to me, look, that they don't have to finance the total cost, which is true. Some of it might be covered through a grant. Some of it might be covered through your kids working part-time when they're in college. I know I did, but it's really about making sure that you are getting yourself into the best possible position and save what you can afford to save. The two bits of advice I give to parents is, firstly, make sure that you are saving the child benefit of €140 per month from a time when your child is young. And the other bit of advice, very important, is to make sure that you're saving into an account which is earning you interest, because as I mentioned earlier, education costs, rent, living costs will naturally rise over time with inflation. So it's really important that your savings are growing or at least matching inflation. Otherwise, you're just constantly on the back burner. And you would be surprised how much of a deposit or an amount of money can be accumulated over a very long time if your money is earning compounding interest. The table here shows just exactly how much money can be accumulated if somebody is saving the child benefit of €140 per month and earning a net interest rate of 3.5% per year. So after 5 years, typically when kids start are starting primary school, you could be looking at €9,000. After 12 years starting secondary school, €25,000, and 18, generally the time when people are starting third level education, you could have €42,000 there saved up. If you're in the fortunate position where you can afford to maybe invest a lump sum of, let's say, €10,000, as well as add to it on a regular basis with the €140 child benefit, those figures are much higher, in and around €20,000 after 5 years, 36,695 after 12 years, and 54,500 after 18 years there. So you can just see that you can put a fair dent in those education costs by saving the child benefit early on and make sure that it's going into an interest paying account, which leads me to my next slide. Those people who, I suppose, have children that will be maybe going to college in, let's say, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, unfortunately, the only options for you are, the bank, credit union, or post office, because you don't have enough of a time to, look at options outside of those institutions. But for anyone on the call today who might be in a position where their kids or their grandkids are quite young, it's really important to look outside the bank, credit union, and post office. These institutions really are only a home for short-term savings. So really anything that's coming up in, let's say, the next 1 to 3 years, any of your financial goals, which are beyond that 3 to 4 year window, you do need to look outside of them. because as I said earlier, remember that education costs and living costs increase over time, and so should your savings. And even though interest rates have risen in the last 12 months, I'm sure everybody on the call realizes that the bank, credit union and post office are giving, measly returns. You're talking about in and around 0 to 0.5% per year, so well below the rate of inflation. And that can be really devastating on our savings over time. If you look at the example here, Mary is 100,000 in on Post, earning just 0.5% per year, which is in and around the interest rate that on Post is currently giving. The impact that inflation is going to have on Mary's money over a 10-year period is set out down here. Now, over the long term, average inflation rates are in the region of about 3% per year. At the moment in Ireland, we're seeing much higher rates, well in excess of 5% per year, but not, obviously that's not going to continue over the long term. But even if we look at a normal inflation rate of about 3% per year, after 10 years, the purchasing power of that €100,000 is going to be eroded down to about €78,000. Higher inflation rates, 4% per year, 100,000 is reduced to 71,000, or at 5% inflation rates, the 100,000 is reduced to 64,000. So again, if you're saving for something, being your kids' education costs, saving for something that's going to keep increasing in value, it really makes no sense for you to be saving into a vehicle which is giving you 0% interest, because you're constantly losing purchasing power on the value of your money. So I'm sure there's many people.
David, can just interrupt there? A question came in. So just so you mentioned there with the level of inflation, would you think that it's risky having my money in the bank, post office or credit union?
Yeah, over the medium to longer term. Everything you do with your money involves risk, even leaving it in the bank, credit union or post office, because if you leave your money in the bank, credit union or post office over the medium to longer term, one thing you are guaranteeing, absolutely guaranteeing, is that you are losing value relative to inflation, because all of those institutions do not pay an interest rate which matches inflation.
That's perfect. Thanks, David.
No worries. So just leading on from that, look, I'm sure many people on the call today are wondering where they can save over a 3 to 5 year plus period with interest rate. And just to educate, Irish people on some of the alternative savings options in the Irish market. A couple of years ago, we set up the Alpha Savings and Investment Club. And our mission really was to help achieve, help people achieve their financial goals and instill good savings habits that will help their hard-earned money work harder for them, rather than sitting idle in the bank, credit union or post office where interest rates are at an all-time low. And basically, we provide people access to what we believe is the best savings plan in the Irish market, which is provided by Zorg, the largest insurance company in Ireland, which I made reference to earlier. This is the plan that I'm using for my own savings for what it's worth. It's the plan that I use for all my clients. It's ideal for saving for your kids or your grandkids' education. And it basically allows you the ability to save on a monthly basis from as little as €100 per month, or put a lump sum into it, or both. It's a very flexible plan in that it allows you to increase, decrease, stop or restart your savings at any stage. What I love about the plan as well is the term is completely open-ended, so you can access your money at any stage at no penalties. Now, where it differs to a normal savings plan is that you get the ability to access some of Zorg's savings funds that are all categorized on a risk and reward scale here. So there's something here for everyone essentially, and that risk and reward level can be altered over the course of the plan. The key thing, if anybody is setting up a plan like this, is to make sure that the fees that you are paying on it are very, very low. And we would like for you to view us as a very low cost broker. One thing we do is give our clients 101% allocation on their savings, because there is a 1% government levy which is charged on the contributions to this plan. So we basically cover that for our clients to make sure that all of their money is going into the plan, and there's no punishing contribution charges or lower allocation rates going into it. Just to give people an example of some of the returns that can be achieved through some of the savings funds within this plan, two funds that I usually use for my clients are a fund called the Active Asset Allocation Fund, which is a risk level 4 on a scale of 1 to 7, so middle of the road, and a fund called the Balance Fund, which is typically a risk level 5. Over the last 5 years, despite us having 2 horrific years within that 5-year period, which included the falls we experienced during COVID and the falls we experienced last year, which was the worst year we've had in markets for a long, long time now, both of these funds returned in the region of about 33% to 34.5% over that past 5 years, despite the challenges we saw. And that's really why I speak about investing money over a medium to longer term. Because if you focus in here on the 1 year performance, you'll notice that both of these funds lost about 6% in the last 1 year. So this type of plan really isn't, suitable for anyone who has, say, a 1, 2, 3 year investment horizon ahead of them. But for anyone who has, more than 3 years ahead of them, it'll give you that time to ride out the short-term volatility that does occur in markets and benefit from the fact that they do move upwards over a medium to longer term period. You can see that the average return from the funds is getting higher and higher, the longer that you're invested in the market. All of the funds, by the way, are extremely well diversified and extremely well managed. The other thing I do stress to people is always make sure that you are getting access to the best. Alpha Wealth are an impartial provider of financial products. We're not tied to any of the providers in the market. So it's all about seeking out the best options for clients. There might be a lot of people on the call today who already have a plan of this nature or might be sold the plan through the bank. And it's, I suppose, important to know that there's a massive variation between the returns of different funds and different fund managers. Just looking here at some of the main fund managers in the Irish market, when it comes to taking out a plan like this, you have Zorg, Aviva, Irish Life, New Ireland, and Standard Life. Alpha Wealth can set up plans through all of these providers. So again, I don't have any vested bias. One of the plans, or one of the funds I look at it also is a fund called the Prisma 4 fund, which is a risk level 4, also on a scale of 1 to 7. And what I've done here is just compare it against the equivalent risk level 4 fund in some of the other providers. So you can see the Aviva risk level 4, Irish Life risk level 4, New Ireland risk level 4, and Standard Life risk level 4. Over the last 5 years, the Prisma 4 has returned to nearly 28%. In stark contrast, Aviva have only done 10%, Irish Life 12%, New Ireland a bit better at just under 20%, and Standard Life at 16%. So you can see that there's such a massive variation in the returns that people achieve. So always make sure you're getting access to the best. We believe Zorg are operating the best plan in Ireland and have the best performing funds, and we can arrange that for people at the lowest costs in the market.
David, just touching on that, another question came in, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering this. They ask, why can we not go directly to Zorg? Why must we go through Alpha Wealth?
So in Ireland, usually you can't go directly to providers like Zorg or Aviva or Irish Life to set up a plan, because you have to go through like a regulated intermediary or a broker. I guess it's kind of the regulator wants people getting that, specialist financial advice rather than just, doing things directly. But it is just about making sure that you're dealing with somebody you can trust and someone who's not going to, charge an arm and a leg. So, you don't, I suppose, pay anything extra going through a company like Alpha Wealth versus going directly from Zorg, even if you could, because Zorg and companies like it only deal through a broker network. It's the brokers really where, I suppose, the charging structures are set apart. So always important to make sure that you're not overpaying on fees, and we will be very transparent when it comes to that. And so the only thing required from people to set up one of these kind of savings plans to help, get you to the best possible position when it comes for saving for your kids or your grandkids' education is just be prepared to save as little as €100 per month, which is the minimum requirement on these plans, or put a lump sum into it of €5,000 or a combination of both. As I mentioned, it is really important to have that kind of medium to long-term view in mind. So you should be prepared to keep the money in the plan for at least 5 years or more, but you can access the money if you need to at no penalties, and then sign up to our investment club mailing list, where we will give ongoing updates and advice in relation to your plan. What I just want to talk about now is inheritance tax or gift tax, because whilst there might be a lot of people on the call today who are planning on saving up an amount of money to directly pay for the cost of education for their kids or their grandkids, and my understanding is that is classed as maintenance, so there's no tax implications there. But there also might be some parents or grandparents on the call today who are planning on maybe gifting an amount of money to the children when they turn 18 or 21 or whatever. And it's really important to know of the tax implications on doing that. So in Ireland, we have inheritance tax or gift tax or capital acquisitions tax. They're all the same thing. And some of that gift is tax-free, depending on the relationship that you have with the person that you're giving the gift to. So for people that might be giving their kids or their children money, they can inherit or gift or be gifted up to 335,000 over their lives. If you're looking at, grandchildren, it reduces to 32,500, and any other groups, it's 16,250. Anything over these thresholds will be taxed at 33%. There is another very powerful tax-free exemption called the small gifts annual exemption, which basically allows anyone to give anyone else €3,000 a year tax-free. And this can really be utilized early on to try to avoid eating into your children's or your grandchildren's capital acquisitions tax thresholds. The Zorg savings plan that I mentioned earlier, there is another variation of that whereby it's set up under a special tax act, and any of the contributions made into it can count towards this small gift exemption. The next slide I have here just shows how a plan like this can be utilized. So if you take Mary and John here, who have €50,000 that they want to pass on to their grandson Luke, who's currently 13 when he turns 18, to help with college costs and a car. As Luke is their grandson, he falls into Group B threshold, so he can only receive 32,500 tax-free under capital acquisitions tax rules, and therefore he would have to pay 33% tax on the balance, which would be a tax bill of about €5,775 for Luke. Now, what if instead Mary and John started to drip feed some of that money into an account like the Zorg Easy Access? They could pay €500 per month under the small gift exemption into this plan, which would be €6,000 per year. That's €3,000 from Mary and $3,000 from John. If it's earning a net interest rate, which I'd like to suggest is very doable, based on the performance of the funds I showed you earlier, in a very, very conservative estimation, after 5 years when Luke was 18, that plan will be worth 32,733. And because of all of the contributions were classed under the small gift exemption, Luke is now actually able to receive all of that €32,733 tax-free and still retain his full 32,500 under the threshold here. So this way, all of the €50,000 can be passed on tax-free, rather than, I suppose, Luke having to lose nearly €6,000 to tax. Again, if you're a parent on the call or a grandparent on the call, or somebody who's looking to give money to your young relatives down the line, it is again about early planning and utilizing things like the small gift exemption and plans such as the Zorg Easy Access Saver to plan and reduce the tax down the line.
David, just touching on tax there, a question came in. So what is the tax treatment of the Zorg Easy Access savings plan?
So any interest that you earn is taxable. So the tax that currently applies to the interest that's gained on life company savings plans is a tax called exit tax, and it's currently 41%. It's only applied on the growth, it's not applied on the capital, and it is only applied when you encash the plan or on every 8-year anniversary. It's called a deemed encashment year. Now, why that matters is that it allows compound interest to build up year on year in the plan without the returns losing 41% of their growth every year.
Yeah, that's perfect, David. And another question as well, just we're on topic, just about the credit union. I find when I save with the credit union, they pay very little interest on your savings.
Yeah, that's correct. They pay no interest at all currently, and that's even though interest rates are going up and they're putting up the rates on loans and mortgages. We haven't seen the same increase in the rate of deposit interest. So again, it comes back to this, short-term, medium, long-term financial planning. If you're saving for, a holiday next year or, a car the following year, anything usually within a 1 to 3 year window, it's fine saving into the bank, credit union or post office, because even though inflation is going to eat into the value of your money, it's not as devastating over, say, a 1 to 3 year period, and you need to get access to that money. You don't have that, long time frame to invest it. Whereas anything beyond that, saving for kids' education, building up a nest egg for yourself, certainly retirement planning for most people, it's really important to make sure that you're investing your money and earning interest to keep pace with inflation over time.
Perfect. And just on inheritance tax again, does a nephew fall into category C, i.e. 16,250 tax free?
I believe they fall into the group B, which is 32,500. But I can double check that one. It might be group C. You might be right. It's one of the two of them. If I had to guess, I think it's the 32,500. But you can find the different categories on the revenue website if you just type in CAT thresholds. But I can double check that one.
Perfect. Thanks, David.
No worries. So just before we kind of finish up and maybe kind of move on to some more Q&A, if it's there, I just wanted to mention a cashback offer that we're currently doing on the Zorg savings plan, whether that's the easy access savings plan or the kind of special gift tax plan. If anyone is in a position where they want to start that plan and paying a monthly contribution of €300 per month or more, we're actually going to give you €100 cashback straight into your bank account within 3 months of the plan starting. So for those who are saving €300 per month, that's equivalent to a 2.8% guaranteed net return in year one, plus any growth in your savings plan. You're not going to get that anywhere else, particularly while interest rates are so low. That offer is due to end on the 15th of May 2023. So look, if anybody is interested in discussing getting a savings plan for yourself set up in a bit more detail, look, happy to discuss it with you. My own contact details are there. I'll just leave them on the screen for a while if anybody needs to get in touch or take them down, and happy to discuss any elements of today's presentation or the Alpha Savings and Investment Club and the Zorg Easy Access Savings Plan.
Perfect, David. Now I'm just going to send in a link about a financial consultation. So if you just want to talk about that and about the treat we have for everyone on the call, just with the discount code, I'll put that in.
Perfect. And just to clarify as well, guys, if anybody is looking to do like a full financial planning consultation, which includes all of the areas that I kind of mentioned here at the start, we do charge a consultation fee. But if there's anyone on the call today that just wants to set up the Zorg Easy Access Savings Plan and Alpha Savings and Investments Club and discuss solely that, there is no consultation fee for those on the webinar, just for the savings plan. So just to clarify that.
Perfect, David. I'm just going to send that link into the chat now. Just put on it, and then we can do the draw for the 3-course lunch in the Kingsley Hotel. So we'll do that in the next 30 seconds. That's okay.
Perfect. I actually forgot to mention that at the start. As people would have seen in the email, we are entering everyone who came on the webinar this evening into a draw to win a 3-course lunch for 2 people in the Kingsley Hotel, Cork. So Keenan's basically doing that draw there now as we speak, and we will be revealing the winner very shortly. Just before we do that, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A box and we can get to them.
So the question just came in: can we set up 2 accounts, 150 and €200, and get the cash back?
Yeah. If it's the same person and they're saving more than €300 per month, split over a couple of different plans, we can give the €100 per month or the 100 cash back. There's no problem there. Just on that, I find that if you're saving for 2 kids or 3 kids education, and there's a good couple of years difference between your kids, I find it's helpful for parents to have 1 account per child, because naturally you'll be cashing them in at different points in time. So it's good to say, look that account 1 is ring fence for child 1 and account 2 is ring fence for child 2. It just makes it a bit easier to manage there. There's no extra cost or anything like that on having an extra plan.
Okay, and there's another question: and just in case an emergency, if I had to withdraw money from Zorg, how long would it roughly take?
So usually, if you want to take money out of your account, we will send a encashment instruction to you. You sign it, send it back to us. We'll get it off to Zorg, and usually within about 1 to 2 weeks of them receiving that instruction, the money is in your account. There's no waiting period per se. It's just the amount of time that it takes them to process the requests and transfer the money and it to be received in your account. So usually within about a 1 to 2 week period.
Perfect. Another question: hi David, how long do you personally recommend saving into a Zorg's plan?
It's there's no real max term on it. For me, the Zorg Easy Access Savings Plan is the all singing, all dancing alternative to putting money into the bank, credit union or post office, as long as you're willing to leave it there for at least 3 or 4 years, if not more. So it's more about the minimum term rather than the maximum term. it's the plan I use myself. I'm happy to show anyone my policy document or my funds to testify to that. I do see it as the best savings vehicle in the Irish market.
Okay, perfect. And look, we have the results to draw there. So Julie Keating is after winning. So look, congrats, Julie. We'll be in touch with you. Oh God, sorry there. The room's falling apart. Congrats, Julie. We'll be in touch with via email, and you've won a 3-course lunch in the Kingsley Hotel in Cork. So congrats on that, Julie.
Perfect. Thanks, Keenan. Congratulations, Julie. Look, we'll link in with you there after the webinar by email. Looking, we can arrange getting those vouchers sent out to you. Thanks to everybody as well for taking the time this evening
There's
to
a few
come onto
more
the webinar.
questions pouring in.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
pouring
Let's
in
get
now,
to them.
David.
So.
Yeah. So look, does a full financial planning consultation take the business into consideration as well if this person is a business owner of a limited company?
Yes, yeah. So a full financial planning consultation covers, everything. It's about looking at yourself, your family, your business, and basically your financial objectives and goals over, your lifetime, and basically putting a plan in place to meet all those objectives. So we won't just look at things like planning for kids' education. We look at things like, retirement planning, exit planning in terms of the business, overall protection for you guys, making sure that your money's working harder, reducing your tax, pretty much everything.
Perfect. Now here's another one, David. There's a lot of questions pouring in. If you invest 5K, can you explain the fee you would pay to Alpha Wealth and also the 40% compound interest with a question mark? How much do you actually make from your investment? Any plans or examples?
Yeah, I can do. So if you go back up here, look to the, I suppose, returns that these funds are giving. So look, let's just say that, I suppose, over the last 10 years, the balance fund done, say, since it was launched, the balance fund done about 9.5%. So if you invest €5,000 in the fund, as I mentioned already at the start, all of that money is I suppose, invested. We give people 101% allocation to cover the government levy, so there's no contribution charge. The only charge that you will pay is an annual fund management charge, which is 1.35% for lump sum amounts and 1.6% per year for regular savings amount. So that person mentioned a €5,000 lump sum, so you would be saying an annual management charge of a 1.35%. So you could say roughly that over the long term, the net return generated from that fund was about 8% per year. Now, if you invested, say, €5,000 for €5,000 over, let's say, 8 years, earning 8% per year, your €5,000 would be worth €9,254. So the growth in that case would be 4,254. 41% of that 4,254 would be taxed, which means that you hang on to about 59% of it. Well, not, 59% of it. So your profit basically in that case is €2,509 over that 8-year period, which is actually a net return of 50%. Or about 6.3% per year. So that's compound interest working basically over time.
Perfect. And there is rumors of the 41% exit tax being decreased. What's your opinion on that?
There is a lot of I suppose momentum in the industry at the moment trying to get exit tax reduced to the same rate of capital gains tax and dirt tax, which is currently 33%. I believe it should be done. I believe it should have been done a long time ago, because I suppose I don't think savers should be penalised for looking at options outside of bank accounts, particularly while interest rates were so low over the last couple of years. Whether or not it will come into effect, look, it remains to be seen. I think it's kind of a 50-50 is my own opinion.
Perfect. And now the final question, David, is just in relation to a financial consultation. How long is the discount valid?
What's the current offer with the discount code, Keenan?
So
when are we putting that to?
50% off using Savings 50, and that's just for the group today. So usually it's only valid until the end of the week, and just if that person gets in contact, if there's something up, maybe we can give a pass for that.
Yeah, so there usually is an expiry date with the discounts, but what I would always say is you don't have to book in within the next week. So whether that's next week, 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time, next month, 2 months time, there's nothing stopping you booking in for a financial planning consultation this week for well down the line and secure at the lower price that applies over the next 7 days.
Yeah, just on just on the topic of the consultation, I sent a link in, guys. So on that, it says a calendar, and you can pick any date or time that suits you on it. And just as David said, it doesn't have to be this month or next month. It can be any month really in the calendar year, just as long as the discount is used this week.
Perfect. And just to clarify as well, that can be done in person at our Little Island offices here. It can be done by yourself or with your partner. And for those of you who would prefer to do it remotely or might not be in the Cork area, we can also do it through Teams or Zoom. So the majority of my client consultations nowadays, as people can probably guess, are through Zoom and Microsoft Teams. It works very well.
All right, that's great, David. So look, that's super. That's all the questions done. I think we got everything answered there. So look, if we missed anything, just email David on dlooney@alphabet.ie, and that's great. So thanks, David.
Perfect, guys. Thanks to everybody for taking the time to come on. Look, I hope you got some benefit from it. And look, if we can help you beyond tonight's webinar, look, feel free to get in touch. And congratulations, Julie, as well on winning the voucher. We'll link in with you separately. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.